You must know to walk on more slowly, Stephen.
Yes,
Galloping on, it's eager anticipation.
Oh, I used up my play on.
Yeah, you did. Now, I can add to that list of imposing credentials the fact that you're a contestant, too, a quiz show contestant, because even tonight you've come hot foot from the Millionaire Studio, where you won £125,000
yes,
for charity.
Indeed.
With Nigella Lawson. But for somebody with your reputation, that's not very good. I mean, you're supposed to know everything. What was it? What was the question that stumped you?
It was what L.S. Lowry had been before he became a painter, and we had to choose between a hospital porter, a debt collector, a drainage engineer, and a curate. And frankly, we didn't know. There's no getting around it. I've asked others are sort of on the way here and others, and they've all suggested hospital porter, which sounds so likely. But you knew the answer.
I did, yeah, only because I knew the old man when I was working in Manchester or Granada. Yes, he was a debt collector. That's exactly right. Unlikely story, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we had thought of getting Brian Sewell, the art critic.
Oh, yes, Brian Sewell.
As a phone a friend, but in fact, he wouldn't have known. Not only do I not know, but now that you've told me, I shall do my very best to forget it. I think any painter born north of the line between the Wash and Bristol Channel is not Brian Sewell's cup of tea.
Maybe not. No. I mean, in all the research, it says you're described as being a voracious reader. I mean, what does that mean, in a sense, when you're young? What did you read?
Well, I had the great advantage of being essentially insomniac. I mean, I couldn't sleep for about 5 or 6 years, really, at all. I mean, the odd half hour. So I would read 3 or 4 books a night. Nice. And, yeah, when I got fed up with reading them, because actually what happened, the wrist, no, don't get me wrong here, but the wrist at night, leaning on, like, turning pages, I would get an absolute cramped wrist and come down in the morning as a teenager and say, your wrist hurts, I know, you get it. It was, sadly, in my case, from reading. And so when I wasn't, I was listening to the only radio station you could listen to at 4 in the morning then, which was the BBC World Service.
Yes.
Which is why I think I sound the way I do, because that's how... This is London. You know, there was this kind of sort of tweedy, mullard valve kind of sound to people. You could smell the dust and the wood and the Bakelite.
When you were this kind of child that you described, this very bookish child, this child who knew lots of things and who I would imagine could be regarded as being a pain in the backside by some of his friends.
Hugely so.
Yeah. I mean, were you bullied at school because of this?
People attempted occasionally, but you know, as we know, words are a great deal stronger than sinew and brawn and muscle-headedness. And I had a very good technique, actually, for if any bully lays hands on you, and this is a free piece of advice, you just say, no, 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 don't touch me, don't hurt me, it'll only give me an erection. And, oh, God. You've no idea the reaction of the average public schoolboy. Oh, bloody hell, Fry. Oh, Christ, you're such a bloody queer, actually. Oh, God. You know, oh, God. And,
I think that should go into a book, actually, about bullying. A wonderful idea.
Yeah, it works.
And were you beaten at school as well?
All the time.
You were? The public school system, of course.
Mostly at prep school. I wasn't at public school. Prep school, for these things are now rather sort of out-of-fashion. In fact, let's face it, they were never exactly the mainstream, but I think 3% of the population. But prep school, essentially, I was sent away to board at the age of 7, 200 miles from home. And people now often go, oh, is that cruel? So... Of course, you don't feel it if that's what you're told is normal. You know, essentially, you've got to hang a child upside down in a cupboard and beat it with rhubarb every day, and it would think that's what life was. You know, you fall out of a womb and you open your eyes and you sort of accept what's there. Yes. I mean, after all, the real world is just as odd as being beaten by rhubarb every day. I mean, it's most peculiar. You just take it. And so I assume that's what happened. All little boys went off at the age of 7, miles from home, and were beaten a lot. And of course, historically, that is true. I mean, people talk now about the idea of beating children as being a repulsive thing, and I genuinely agree. I don't think we should hit children. Yes, but we should bear in mind that if this, if you can get this wide on the camera, whoa, there we are, there, if that is human history, then it is a film on top of a fingernail's length of time that humans have been alive in which they've not beaten children. That's to say, since we've emerged from, you know, the primordial soup, virtually, as far as we can tell. The Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, Shakespeare would have been beaten, Churchill, every up until the last 20 years in human history. And it may be that a shining new, wondrous race of humans is emerging, and indeed you can see that. I think they're called chavs, and they are unquestionably the way forward. You know?
So let's talk about this latest venture of yours, which is A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, so tell you knew Douglas Adams, who wrote the book.
I did, yeah.
So how do you account for its immense popularity, its kind of cult following?
Well, I think it's two things. On the one hand, one has to admit there is a kind of slightly woolly-hatted, you know, bottle-end spectacle, rather generous helping of scurf kind of audience for science fiction generally, you know, like that strange comic book guy in The Simpsons, you know, who talks about his comic books as being worth, you know, and they're very sort of nerdy creatures who will like science fiction. And it's a constituency. But what Douglas did was he wrote witty ones. I mean, they are very charming and funny.
You're the narrator in this.
I put the guide itself, as it were, the voice of the guide.
The voice, the man who knows everything.
Yes,
absolutely. The answers to everything.
Yeah.
All right. Now, just set up this clip for us, then.
All right. Yes. Well, we're about to see the Vogons, who are one of the most unpleasant, bureaucratic, revolting races in the galaxy. They're known for their bureaucracy, but worst of all, they write the third worst poetry in the universe. And if they really dislike someone, they will read it to them.
Oh, right. Here we go.
Vogon poetry is widely accepted as the third worst in the universe. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Krea. During a recitation by their poet master Grunthos the Flatulent of his poem Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning, 4 of his audience died of internal hemorrhaging.
And that's coming out...
29th of April, actually,
29th
yeah.
April, all right.
Yeah.
Next week, in fact, you've got another very important date in your diary, haven't you? The royal wedding.
Yes, I have. It's true.
It's true. Now, how did your friendship with Charles start?
Well, as you know, if you work in this business that we call show, the chances are you will end up in some kind of line-up at the end of a show and be introduced into a gracious presence. And this had happened to me a couple of times with the Prince of Wales, and we happened to be neighbours around about Christmas time, at least, because the Queen, his mother, our sovereign lady, has a house in Norfolk, not far from my own. And one year...
She didn't move out when you moved in.
Yeah. And one year, he had said to me in a line-up, he'd said, of course, you live in Norfolk, didn't you? And I said, yes. He said, well, nice to see you over Christmas. And of course, I thought it was just typical politeness, Windsor politeness, but I thought no more of it. And I had a big house party. This is back in the 80s, and I was emulsifying a sauce. I was making a hollandaise sauce for Eggs Benedict, which is a very tricky operation, as I'm sure you know. And the phone went, so I was shouting at these house guests, come on, someone answer the damn phone. Someone, come on, oh, God. No one did. And so I picked it up and went, hello, it's the Prince of Wales here. And, you know, I did what anybody would do. I said, sod off Rory. You know, I mean, essentially, you know, it's just, no, truly, really. And somehow... some part of you knows when it is, no matter how good an impressionist is, they can't really. And he said, it'd be nice to come to tea tomorrow. And I said, gosh, terrific. So I had the job of telling everyone in the house that Prince Wales was coming for tea. And, of course, they didn't believe me until... 2 men came in a dark green Range Rover and scoped the place out in security ways and checked exits and things like that and kind of talked it through. And then they realised, and then suddenly all these people who'd never, you know, men who'd never handled one in their life were vacuum cleaning everywhere, dusting the car. It's pathetic how bourgeois you become the moment it's, you know, you just suddenly get...
But can you have a normal relationship, normal friend?
But no, he's a very easy man to get on with. I have to say, you know, of course it looks greasy to be on easy terms with someone who may be king one day, but all I can say in my defence is that I like him, and that I've met other members of the family whom I don't dislike profoundly, but I do think he is a remarkable man by any standards. I don't know anybody I know some people who know more about literature than he does, and some people who know more about painting, and some people who know more about architecture, and some people who know more about farming, and some people who know more about military history and world history and geography. But I don't know anybody who knows as much about all those things as he does.
That's interesting.
I remember 20 years ago when he was being mocked out of the country, virtually, for talking about organic farming. Well, this is now something which is absolutely understood, even if you don't think the food tastes any better. The prices are now coming down enough, and everyone recognises at least it's best not to spray your food with all kinds of poisons.
But going back to that relationship, I mean, why is it difficult? Why do people react differently to? I mean, people don't react that way to stars, any kind of celebrity at all. It's just rot, isn't it?
Do you know that that comedian Penn Teller, as in Penn Jillette, rather? Yes, Penn and Teller, exactly.
Teller, the American.
Very tall guy. He was in line with me and says, "Do I have to call him your Royal Highness or anything?" And I said, "No." He said, "Because I'm American. We don't say that." I said, "I think he knows you're American. Don't worry about it." He said, "Do I have to bow?" I said, "You don't have to bow. No." He said, "I don't have to call him sire or liege." I said, "No. I'm not calling you. I don't call you Mike every other sentence. When you talk to someone, you don't use a name or title." I said, "It's fine." He said, "OK, as long as that's understood, because I'm American. We don't bow." And of course, the moment the Prince of Wales is in front of me, he's, "Oh, Your Highnessness, Your Royal Majestiness, oh, Your Sire Liegeness, oh." Yeah, and then afterwards, he was kind of going, "Why did I do that? I betrayed my country." They do have that.
But why is it? I mean, they're aware of the effect they have on people. Of course they are. They know that, and they've worked it out. And there are certain tricks they employ.
They do indeed.
Have you learnt any of them?
Yes, yes, he did. He did say to me, the Prince of Wales, that one of the best pieces of advice that his father ever gave him was in a lineup. Look into the eyes, particularly of a female. Never let your eyes go down, because that's the photograph, the eyes fixed on the cleavage. But the most interesting one is that actually members of the royal family follow the precise technique of what you might call lap dancing type girls, hostesses at louche bars that charge, £400 for a bottle of warm champagne. And that is, you say the last word of whatever has been said to you. So if I say to you, where were you born?
I was born in Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. That's one of my favourite counties. Was it in Leeds or...?
No, Barnsley.
Barnsley? Oh, Barnsley is fascinating history. And similarly, you'd say, "What's your job?"
I do a talk show.
Oh, you do a talk show? That's interesting, like Jonathan Ross. How long have you been doing it?
Oh, many years.
Many years?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, because I've been doing this many years.
Oh,
and yeah, that's right. Where'd you go on holiday?
America.
America?
Yeah.
Oh, I've always wanted to go to America. That's basically the technique. You just say the last word, and it never ends. Well, probably I don't have time for it, but it did amuse me. I was very lucky to know a marvellous man called Sir Martin Gilliatt, who was the Queen Mother's private secretary. And he told me once, he said, some years ago, he said, "I noticed that Queen Elizabeth, as they always used to call the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth's television was a little on the blink. It was a little, it rolled, I think the word is. I said to her, "Ma'am," I think our television needs..." and she looked at me, she said, "You're quite right." She said, "I'll go down to lunch. You get on to those nice people at Harrods and see if we can have a new television." This is when they were nice people at Harrods, you understand. And so he made the phone call, and by the time she'd toddled up, and sat down in her chair to watch the 3 o'clock at Haydock or whatever, there was this brand new television. He said, "Ma'am, I think you'll be as excited as I am." He said, as you see, it's a very big screen. Now, you see that little grey box next to your gin and dubonnet. He said, now, if you want to change the channel, instead of getting up to press a button, you press 1 for BBC 1, 2 for BBC 2, 3 for ITV. And she looked at her and said, "Oh, how clever. I still think it's easier to ring."
They're not like us at all.
No.
Stephen Fry, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Stephen Fry. Thank you. Thank you.